All right, good morning, everyone. The June 9th Executive Committee meeting is called to order. First, I would like to ask Grisel to explain how to access interpretation.
Thank you. I will repeat the following message in English. Este es un aviso por parte del intérprete. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, favor de desplazarse a la parte inferior de la pantalla en Zoom, en donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación, que es un globo terráqueo, y seleccione Spanish o español. Si está utilizando la aplicación desde celular o tableta, presione los puntos suspensivos, luego interpretación y luego el idioma. Si se ha unido a la reunión de hoy en la sala de juntas de SANDAG y necesita interpretación al español, por favor diríjase a la recepción del piso 7 y solicite un receptor. El receptor se parece a un pequeño iPod y se puede usar para escuchar la reunión en español. Simplemente sostenga el auricular junto a su oído y la interpretación comenzará automáticamente. To use the Zoom interpretation feature, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are. Click on the interpretation icon that appears as a globe and select English or Spanish. If you are joining using the Zoom mobile app, in a cell phone or a tablet, please press the ellipsis, then interpretation, and then choose your language. If you are joining us today at SANDAG and need interpretation into Spanish, please check out a headset from the receptionist on the 7th floor. The headset looks like a little iPod and comes with an earpiece which you can use to hear the meeting in Spanish. Simply hold the earpiece to your ear and the interpreter will come on automatically. Thank you.
Thank you. Just as a reminder, Chairwoman Vargas is not able to join us today, so I will be filling in as chair. We will begin today with our tribal acknowledgement. The land that we call home, San Diego, has historically, excuse me, we'll start that over. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we call home. The tribal nations of the San Diego region have historically faced injustices. We acknowledge the harmony that existed between the land, nature, and its original peoples who have since endured displacement, persecution, and systemic oppression. We pay our respect to the unceded territory and homelands of the 18 tribal nations in our region, the most in any county in the United States, from 4 cultural groups: the Kumeyaay, the Igueño, the Luiseño, the Cupeño, and the Cahuilla. This land has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced them for many generations in a relationship of balance and harmony. As members of the SANDAG community, we acknowledge this legacy. We aspire to learn from Indigenous traditional knowledge and experiences in undoing the injustices of the past. Now, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag and the United States of America, and to the republic which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Tessa, please call the roll.
Good morning. City of San Diego, Vice Chair Ayuda Rivera.
Present.
County of San Diego is absent. East County Mayor Vasquez. Here. North County Coastal Mayor Hebner, Vice
Present.
Chair. And Council Member Burkholder.
Present.
North County Inland Mayor Jones.
Here.
And South County is absent. Ex officio members, Deputy Mayor Zito.
Here.
And Council Member Shu.
Here.
And that concludes the roll call and confirms a quorum.
All right, thank you so much. Let's begin with non-agenda public comment. And this is for the public and member non-agenda comments. Tessa, do we have any public comments?
I have one member of the public that is virtual that has requested to speak. The original draw, please go ahead. You are self-muted.
Okay. So I just wanted to say is you guys all, just like all of these other boards, want people to use public transit. You know, there seems to be some kind of disconnect with being able to find bathrooms. And I was telling MTS yesterday, which some of you were there, that they have partnered with a company that provides different things for bus shelters and space like that, but also bathrooms, and they take care of them, but they offer advertising in exchange and many of you guys are, setting out to get advertising on different things to make money, but we're not providing the basic necessities. And it was very easy for me to find this company within, a minute or two during the meeting. And it's called Outfront and JC DeSau, and they are a marketing company and also one that provides these structures or amenities for people to use public transit and do it in a way that is comfortable for them, and it makes more people want to ride. So, I mean, I guess I just don't understand how it was so easy for me to find such a thing that is so important that we talk about is being too expensive or just there's no money for it. But if there's somebody that provides this in exchange for advertising, I mean, you guys need to look into this. It's a North American company, and they have like 2,000 different structures and pieces all over LA. So it's a possibility for you guys to have that. So I just feel that you should be looking into that if I could find it that easily. And it could be provided pretty quickly for the people, so that like people don't have to strike because they don't have a bathroom or the basic necessities to do their job. I know there's other issues to that, but it is possible for you guys to provide it in all of the cities. So I just look into.
Thank you. Your time expired. And that concludes the public comments.
All right. Do we have any member non-agenda comments? Mayor
Real
Jones?
quick, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say I fully support that we are going to have a seat that is a non-voting member for the rural communities. And I was just wondering if, I know since it's a non-agenda item, we can't get an answer right now, but if we could get an update on that, maybe at a later date as to when that will actually move forward. Thank you.
Any sort of staff response?
You have a board policy that talks about the board's consideration and certain factors to be considered. I think at this point, the county has unanimously passed a resolution, has passed that on to SANDAG. I don't know if that's taken the form of a formal request to agendize the item, but certainly staff and leadership are aware of it, and I anticipate it coming forward on a future agenda.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Appreciate that. All right, let's move on to the consent agenda. Colleen, you have a change to the draft agenda that you wanted to share, correct?
Yes, thank you, Chair. For the July 14th board meeting, we would like to add a closed session item to provide an update to the board on our lease. So we'll be adding that to the agenda.
Thank you. All right, so with that change noted, Tessa, do we have any public comments on the consent agenda?
We have one virtual public commenter, the original draw. Please go ahead.
So when you're talking about board agendas, I just would like to ask that you put something on the board agenda that has to do with ensuring that there are bathrooms. I don't know if any of you guys have ever had to deal with something like that, but it's like I've been paralyzed before, and it's difficult to, get to the bathroom or whatever. I'm just saying, like, I feel like this is a basic necessity that you continue to ignore, and that needs to be on the agenda, whether it's a measure to bring forward this type of action to make sure that it happens, or that you're going to seek, to find contracts that are out there that could provide this. But do something, put it on the agenda, because it is extremely important to provide that. I mean, like I said, you guys want everybody to not drive their car. I mean, unless you want people to be going on the street, which you don't. I mean, we're set out to criminalize homelessness. So why not do something like this? It actually helps everybody. It's an equitable thing. You guys talk about that kind of stuff all the time. So it wouldn't be hard to put it on the agenda. And I guess I just don't understand why none of you are willing to do it. Like, it doesn't matter when it does. And it's not going to cost you money to do it if there's companies out there willing to provide these basic things in exchange for ads. I mean, we've been talking about this for across these different boards for, quite some time, and you guys want to generate money. So, I mean, it'll be a way to generate money. So I guess I just don't understand why it's so hard to put something like that on a agenda item. Do none of you care about that? Is it not something that you're willing to even look into? I just don't understand why other places that are saying that this is the transit that needs to be used are providing those things and making sure that it's provided, yet here it's being ignored and it's like crickets. So.
And that concludes the public comments.
All right. We'll now hear member comments on the consent agenda, beginning with Councilmember Shu and then Mayor Jones.
Thank you. I'd like to add something or suggest, since I'm not a voting member, I can only suggest this, to add an item to the agenda on July 14th, which is a resolution that will be member initiated. The resolution will address the next transportation plan or next regional plan to focus on reducing health impacts in our most impacted communities throughout our region. So that's something that I've been working on for a while, but I'd like to see if we can add that to the July 14th agenda for the full board.
Thank you, Councilmember Shu. We will note that. Definitely want to make sure that Chair Vargas is back before go ahead and give the green light on that. Thank you for the recommendation. Mayor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know if I should call you Chair. Thank you, Council Member. So I guess my on the June 23rd agenda, I do have a question, and that is, has the environmental been done yet on that? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yes, that would be helpful. On item number, 16, the amendment to the 21 regional plan.
Yes, Mayor Jones. So for that item, the draft environmental document has been prepared and the draft plan have been prepared. So we're bringing that to you to officially release it for public review. So that will begin the public review period.
Okay, and then that's not our final decision before it goes to the state. Correct?
That's right. We have to follow the CEQA timeline.
Yeah.
So right now we're prepared to bring the completed plan and the fully completed environmental document to you in September for your recommendation to submit to the Air Resources Board, the state.
Perfect. Okay. And then on the draft agenda, July 14th, number 7, I would like to make sure that we are still going with the removal of the REC. I know it's a discussion on the actual funding, but I think it would be important for us to know what that funding is that we're planning on having. And if part of the funding is, to start moving forward on getting that plan moving along, we want to make sure that we know what we're actually voting on. So if we could make sure that we discuss the removal of the REC, because we are removing it in the 21 plan, which the action will happen at the previous meeting that we start that process. I think it's also important that we talk about the conversion of the highway and the lanes within the cities to managed lanes. I think that's what we're calling it now, managed lanes. I think that that's part of the discussion that would be important to know that what we're voting on to approve. Thank you.
All right. With that, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. I'll make a second.
A motion here. We've got it. And we got a motion and a second. Seeing no additional requests to speak to this item. Tessa, actually, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. All right, let's move on to the legislative status report, please.
Good morning. My name is Hannah Sturm. I'm the Senior Federal Legislative Analyst, and I am here to present the federal report today. So the big news out of Washington is that the debt ceiling crisis has ended. A deal was struck between Speaker McCarthy and President Biden. The deal raised the debt ceiling, so it won't need to be addressed again until early 2025. Along with raising the debt ceiling, the bill contains some modest cuts to spending and also some unrelated policy provisions. Among those policy provisions, there are some of interest to us, including some permitting reform aimed at streamlining the NEPA process. These reforms will make it quicker for both federal agencies and project sponsors to get through the NEPA process. As a result of the deal being struck, a faction of House Republicans have been unhappy that they agreed to raise the debt ceiling and make these changes, which has delayed floor action already on some of our must-pass bills. So the annual appropriations bill and the National Defense Authorization Act have been delayed. And unfortunately, it seems like there may be more delays coming. Last week, the group of hardline members rebelled against the speaker's bill that he put on the floor and voted down a rule vote, which is a procedural mechanism needed to consider policy priorities for the majority party. This hasn't happened in 20 years. So the speaker has been working with his conference to try to get them back in order. They're going to try again next week, but this all doesn't bode very well for timely passage of our must-pass bills. In better news, thanks to the great work of SANDAG's grants team and rail team, we secured $1.1 million from the Federal Railroad Administration's Rail Crossing Elimination Program. This money will be used to study rail crossings between downtown and Old Town for possible elimination. By eliminating rail crossings, it makes travel safer for pedestrians and vehicles, and it also makes trip times faster for the users of the train. And with that, I will turn it over to Jose Alvarez.
Good morning, Vice Chair and committee members. I'm pleased to introduce you to Kirk Blackburn from Ellison Wilson Advocacy, our SANDAG's longtime Sacramento-based lobbying firm, who will give a legislative report on state affairs.
Thanks, Jose. Thanks for having me today, and good morning. So Kirk Blackburn with Ellison Wilson Advocacy. We're SANDAG's longtime lobbying firm. I also work with Brooks Ellison and Pat Whalen from our firm, as well as Patrick Butler of Arena Public Affairs on behalf of SANDAG. So I want to provide you with a quick overview on this first year of the 2023 legislative session before we get into some specific legislation. So where we're at, we just hit the midpoint of the session with last week's deadline for all bills to be passed out of the first house. So we're midway through. It's been a particularly interesting session so far, as we have a third of the legislature is entirely new to the Capitol, which is a historic high. As such, we saw nearly 2,700 bills introduced this year, the highest total in more than a decade. And the 11-member San Diego delegation are well positioned at the legislature, including Senator Tony Atkins, still serves as Senate Pro Tem. Senator Brian Jones took over as Senate Minority Leader, former SANDAG Chair, and now Senator Catherine Blakespeare. She sits on some key committees, including forming and serving as chair of the Senate Subcommittee on Low-Sand Rail Corridor Resiliency. Also have Assemblymember Tasha Berner serving as chair of the Assembly Communications and Conveyance Committee, which deals with broadband issues, as well as Assemblymember Ward as serving as Speaker pro tempore. So with that said, I'll get into some of the specific legislation impacting SANDAG this year. I'll kick it off with AB 427 by Assemblymember David Alvarez. This is a bill sponsored by SANDAG, which will help with the Otay Mesa East Port of Entry project by authorizing SANDAG to use the Construction Manager General Contractor, CMGC, project delivery method. Has a Senate Transportation Committee hearing upcoming on June 27th. But happy to report that so far it's received no votes. It's going smoothly through the legislative process so far. SANDAG's also supporting two separate bills, AB 610 by Assemblymember Holden, which creates a 5-year student transit pass pilot program to provide grants to transit agencies to create free or expand free fare transit programs for college students and any youth under the age of 18. Also supporting SB 825 by Senator Lamone, which makes regional transportation planning agencies eligible for certain broadband planning grant funding from the CPUC. Both bills are moving successfully through the legislative process thus far. So also wanted to briefly mention SB 891, which is this year's transportation omnibus bill. which among other provisions includes a provision requested by SANDAG to change the deadline for SANDAG's annual public transit report to the legislature to December 31st of each year. With that said, wanted to briefly discuss the status of several high-profile bills impacting transportation planning. Namely, I'll get into two bills by Assemblymember Laura Friedman, who's the chair of the Assembly Transportation Committee, AB 6 and AB 7, which initially raised some concerns for transportation planning agencies about eroding local control over transportation projects. Specifically, AB 6 requires CARB to update its regional GHG emission reduction targets for the purposes of each region's sustainable community strategy by 2026 for both the automobile and light truck sector to 2030 and 2045, respectively. Also requires MPOs to work with the CARB throughout this process. Due to concerns with the stakeholders, Assemblymember Friedman has agreed to hold the bill for the remainder of 2023. So it's not looking, it won't be moving anymore this year, but in order to give stakeholders more time to work through some of these issues. As far as her AB 7, it's also been softened a bit and now merely encourages certain state agencies to incorporate principles from the state's CAPDI and federal IIJA into their selection process for certain transportation projects. Also, I'll talk another key bill of interest for the transportation planning space is AB 1335 by Assemblymember Zebur, which is intended to resolve inconsistencies between the RENA and the SES population projections by creating a process to resolve any differences. Specifically, it requires the total number of new housing units in the SES to not be less than the total number of housing units projected for the region by the Department of Housing and Community Development. And there's a whole calculation in the bill about how to reconcile these two. In general, it's viewed by transportation planning agencies as being unnecessarily complicating the SES process. On the housing front, there's dozens of affordable housing related bills. One of the more high profile bills is Senator Wiener's SB 423, which extends certain aspects of 2017's SB 35, which provided for a streamlined ministerial process for approving certain housing developments. Is raised concerns amongst local government community, as well as triggered a fight amongst labor about certain labor provisions contained in the bill. So we'll see where that bill goes throughout the course of the rest of the session. With that said, I'll move a little bit into the state budget process and give you guys a quick update on where we're at there. So the legislature must pass the main budget bill by June 15th, so next Thursday. So we're almost there. There's likely to be various budget trailer bills that are passed afterward at that time, as well as afterwards, going throughout the remainder of the session. Legislature and governor have some difficult decisions to make as the state's budget deficit, depending on who you ask, according to the governor, is up to $31.5 billion right now. So massive deficit we're dealing with. There's been lots of discussions about funding for transit in this year's budget discussions. Originally, the governor proposed a $2 billion reduction in transit intercity rail capital program funds, so TIRCP. While the California Transit Association is requesting over $5 billion in multi-year funding for transit operations in order for transit agencies to avoid a fiscal cliff. Both the Assembly and the Senate voted to reject the governor's cuts to the TRCP funding and additionally voted to grant transit agencies with additional flexibility to be able to use these TRCP funds for operational deficits, contingent upon meeting specific accountability and reform requirements in there as well. The governor has also recently proposed an infrastructure project streamlining package, which is being supported by SANDAG and specifically for its inclusion of proposals permitting CEQA judicial streamlining for certain projects, including a limited number of transportation projects, as well as progressive design build authority for Caltrans. These proposals are still being debated by the legislature, administration, and stakeholders, and we'll see where they go from here. So I know it's been a lot of information, condensing half of a legislative session into a few minutes, but wanted to specifically thank the hardworking SANDAG staff for all their help and let you know that it continues to be a privilege to represent SANDAG at the Capitol. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for the update. We've got we'll start with Second Vice Chair Huebner for questions and then see if there are any additional questions after that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kurt, very much for that update. I have some concerns about the governor's trailer bill situation there. My understanding has been that when those are proposed in this manner, that they don't go through the legislature. So is this a unique pushback by the legislature to the governor, or is this part of the process of trailer bills that I just didn't understand in the past?
Yeah, it is. I mean, the budget process is its own separate thing, but yes, this it has been a little unprecedented in that the governor just dumped a package of 10 bills on the legislature essentially a few weeks before the budget deadline with the request that these be part of the budget. Legislature has pushed back. They don't like to be told what to do, and so, yeah, it is a slightly unique process and is definitely outside of the traditional legislative process. A lot of these are policy proposals, so it would normally have to go through the legislative process throughout the entire year, and this one's trying to streamline that.
Okay. And in terms of the CEQA streamlining, I always have a little bit of caution when I hear about that because I believe CEQA is an important process to protect our environment and to protect the people's voices. And I don't know what specific projects are being referred to. It just says 8 projects here or up to 20 projects there. Have they been identified, or are we just supposed to allow streamlining in a void? We don't even know what they are.
Yeah, there have been requests to find out the specific projects, but they have not identified those specific projects yet. For transportation, it's limited to 20 projects throughout the state, 10 of which are state projects, 10 of which are local projects. And so, yeah, that would be up to approval of CalSTA to approve which projects go forward. And they would need to meet the requirements of CAPDI, the state's CAPDI. Any of those projects would need to, which includes several climate-friendly or climate change-related provisions that you need to meet within there.
And could you explain to me the NEPA assignment for rail projects in English? I didn't quite understand that paragraph report.
Yeah, as I understand it, so yeah, it would essentially California serves has been designated as the NEPA authority and for certain rail public transportation projects and multimodal projects. And so that's already existing law. What this would do would strike the sunset clause in there. I think it's set to that authority is set to expire in 2025. It would strike that strike that sunset clause, as well as it would also extend the ability to use that NEPA authorization in certain local projects as well, with at the request of local agencies, and CalSTA would still serve as the designated authority, NEPA authority in that context.
Okay, and then I'll just make one final comment, and that is about SB 423, which I vehemently oppose, and I think cities should really be aware of what this is requiring, and that is that you actually produce in your cities 50% of your arena numbers halfway through the cycle, which for the SANDAG region is 2025. And not only does that, and if that occurs and you have not produced those, you lose your land use authority, and cities are more prone then to builder's remedy, which in a city like mine, where we have a 15% inclusionary, SB 423 reduces the mandate for affordability to only 10%. So I have great concerns about this. I heard yesterday the Coastal Commission voted unanimously to oppose it because it also wraps the coastal zone into SB 35's requirements and removes the sunset provision in SB 35. So I'm hoping that you can oppose that as strongly as you possibly can, because we need to maintain the uniqueness of each of our communities and actually put forth a real strong, realistic effort toward creating affordable housing in our communities, not just handing it over to developers who are making more money on market rate units than they are producing affordable units. That's my commentary. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Second Vice Chair. Do we have any additional comments or questions related to the update? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Jose. Thank you, Kirk, for the update that you do on our behalf. Public comments. Yes, let's do that.
We do have 2 public comments on this item. The first is in person. Alan C., please come to the podium.
Good morning. Thank you, sir, for mentioning about the affordable housing and all that. And yes, a good model city, which everybody should look at, is Chula Vista. They have the little home set up, And here's the thing, they've got rules. No drinking, no drugs, 90 days, clear your system out. I actually encourage Chula Vista City Council and John McCain, the mayor down there, take it a step further. After 90 days, what happens? They get booted back to the street. So why not make it at this 60-day mark and encourage them to get a job? If they get a job, they get out of the cycle. Because as you mentioned, thank you for mentioning that this affordable housing is a scam. The person living in the tent has no money. They will never move into that affordable housing unit. They put affordable housing down in Chula Vista on K and 3rd, blocked out all the single family homes, 6-story structure. We asked the developer, how much are the affordable units costing? Not the regular units, but the affordable units, $800 a pop. That guy living in the tent on drugs, it doesn't help him. You, sir, shut down 550-bed shelter down at Golden Hall. And what did you do? You moved to a poor neighborhood bar of Logan. How is that helping the people? Mayor Todd Gloria this morning talked about other cities need to take up the slack. Well, what did you do? You shut down Golden Hall. Why don't you reopen it? And take it a step further, when you put them back in an open bay birthing, monitor them and get them help, get them out of their cycle, because the problem with homeless is drug abuse, alcohol abuse. Until you take it for what it was and stop calling mental illness, which is a lie, that's actually derogatory to the people on drugs, to call them mental illness, you're sick, you're beyond help, that is bull. What you need to do is start attacking the root of the problem.
So I'm just, this is.
Yes, sir. I'm talking about the funding and what you're doing with this. And speaking of rail, you're talking about this rail. I've talked about Del Mar train track a year ago. I still haven't seen shovels to move that track. People are going to die. When are you going to start putting the funding and move that damn track? You had steady since 2018. I yield back.
Our final speaker is the original draw. Please go ahead.
I have a couple of questions, not like they're ever going to be answered. Actually, one comment, the whole affordable housing thing, I guess, listening to Hebner, whatever, speak, seems like you're more concerned that if you don't, comply with whatever is in that bill, you're afraid you're going to lose the funding, which is you guys are always concerned about, but it's because you can't keep up with that. I don't understand when we're talking about affordable housing, it's really not even creating that many units. You're just creating other units that can be, rented at higher prices. So, I mean, we're not really putting a dent in anything, but just thinking about eroding local control. That's what a lot of bills want to do with many things, even children in schools, and being able to decide what happens with them. But having a Sacramento-based law firm, I mean, I understand that you want someone who's close to there and that we have certain representatives from here. But as Hebner is sitting there talking to Mr. Blackburn or whatever, it's like, I mean, is he really going to go and say anything for you? I mean, do you guys even have any connection with anybody, or is it that you're just being told what's going on up there and there's no connection to even, go and speak with people and tell them what you want? I just feel like the more we spread out ourselves from being close to the legislature or like being able to communicate with them, then you're kind of left going like, well, we just kind of got to deal with whatever happens. That's why I don't understand why you wouldn't even also have somebody based in San Diego working on this stuff, and why you're outsourcing just to a Sacramento-based law firm. It's just curious to me because I feel like you don't have any connection then. Like we're just zooming over the phone with him and you're telling him you want him to do this, but is there any guarantee anybody's going to say anything, or you're just going to let it, what happens happen?
Thank you. Your time expired. And that concludes the public comments.
Thank you, Tessa. One last request or anybody else have any comments or questions? All right. Just say thank you again. And with that brings us to the end of our agenda, I believe. That was nice and easy. Our next executive committee meeting is on Friday, July 14th at 9 a.m. This meeting is adjourned.